Hello to all astronomy enthusiasts around the world. My name is Luis Miguel Azorin, and I welcome you to a new video of astronomical ephemerides from Astro Academy. This time, we're going to review everything the sky has to offer during the month of February 2026. It's a short month, but with several interesting events, including an annular solar eclipse, although I must say it's not very accessible. Encounters between the moon and planets, an unusual planetary alignment, and, although rather subtle, the main meteor shower of the month. So let's go through everything calmly so you can plan both your observations and your astrophotography sessions. As always, we'll start with the phases of the moon, which are essential for understanding how the sky behaves throughout the month. On February 1st, we will have a full moon, traditionally known as the snow moon. This name evokes the cold winter month and the frequent snowfalls typical of this time of year. It's a very bright moon, which can be great for nighttime landscape photography, especially with snow, but obviously not ideal for capturing deep sky objects. On February 9th, we reach the last quarter moon. In this phase, the grazing illumination highlights craters and surface features, making it one of the best times for lunar observation with a telescope. On February 17th, we will have a new moon, the most anticipated phase for deep sky enthusiasts. Additionally, it coincides with the most important event of the month, the annular solar eclipse. On February 24th, we reach the first quarter moon, visible during the afternoon and early evening, with excellent conditions for comfortable lunar observation. Now let's move on to the most important planetary events of the month. February 2026 is clearly defined by a main event, the annular solar eclipse on the 17th. On that day, the moon will pass in front of the sun. However, since it will be in an intermediate position between lunar apogee, its farthest point from Earth, which occurs on February 10th, and lunar perigee, its closest point, which occurs on February 24th, it will not completely cover the solar disk and will not produce the totality characteristic of a total solar eclipse. The result will be the characteristic ring of fire, a luminous ring around the lunar disk. Although an annular solar eclipse is impressive, it is important to clarify the visibility of this annular eclipse. The full annularity, that is, the exact moment when the perfect ring is observed, will only be visible from extremely remote regions of Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. It will not cross any populated areas. And in practice, direct observation will be almost exclusively limited to scientific personnel or expeditions with special permits to access these areas. From other regions of the Southern Hemisphere, such as the far south of South America, Argentina, and Chile, and some areas in Southern Africa, the annularity will not be visible. Instead, only a partial solar eclipse will be seen, where the moon will cover only part of the solar disk. This makes this eclipse a scientifically very interesting phenomenon, but not very accessible to the general public. Even so, it will be followed through live broadcasts from different points around the globe. On February 19th, Mercury will reach its greatest eastern elongation, making it the best time of the month to try to observe it at sunset. And on February 28th, an alignment of 6 planets will occur. Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter will be visible to the naked eye, while Uranus and Neptune will require a telescope. Right at dusk, we will have all these planets in the sky. Within the line of the ecliptic, the imaginary line along which the sun moves across the sky. The problem is that most of these planets will be clustered near the sun, right at dusk, making them difficult to observe and photograph. Now let's move on to the most notable astronomical events of the month. Throughout the month, there will be encounters between the moon, planets, and bright stars. On February 3rd, the moon will pass close to Regulus, the brightest star in Leo. Between February 11th and 14th, there will be lunar occultations of bright stars, very interesting phenomena for observers, with telescopes or for creating astronomical time lapses. On February 23rd, the moon will be near the Pleiades cluster and Uranus, and on February 27th, the moon will pass close to Jupiter and Pollux in the constellation Gemini. Although February is not a particularly active month in terms of meteors, there is one shower that stands out, the Alpha Centaurids. This is a very minor shower with a low hourly rate, barely 6 meteors per hour, and it is also exclusive to the Southern Hemisphere. Its peak activity occurs around February 8th and 9th with the radiant in the constellation Centaurus, very close to the star Alpha Centauri. From the Northern Hemisphere, it is practically impossible to observe since the radiant remains very low or even below the horizon. However, from southern latitudes, it can produce relatively bright, though sporadic meteors. It is not a shower that warrants dedicated observation, but it can still provide interesting meteors for observers in the southern hemisphere during those dates. Additionally, the waning quarter phase of the moon may make it easier to observe and detect the brightest meteors. And as always, we finish with some photography tips so you can capture the most interesting astronomical events of the month. For the full moon, take advantage of its brightness for nighttime landscapes with the moon low on the horizon. This full moon can be especially rewarding if we use its brightness to photograph snowy landscapes, and we can even try to incorporate it into that snowy landscape. If you follow the solar eclipse on February 17th, always remember to use certified solar filters. Never look at or photograph the sun without proper protection. Keep in mind that this is an annular eclipse, so there will be no totality phase at any time. And it is essential to use protection for both your eyes and your photographic equipment throughout the entire eclipse. Photographically, the eclipse will be spectacular, both in places where it is observed partially and in those remote regions where annularity will occur. Take the opportunity to capture it or record time lapses that show the movement of the moon relative to the position of the sun. The planetary alignment on February 28 is ideal for wide-angle photography, incorporating a terrestrial foreground. For the encounters of the moon with stars and clusters, lenses between 70 and 200 mm offer very balanced framing, although you shouldn't rule out using long telephoto lenses for those closer conjunctions. And that concludes the astronomical events for this February 2026. A short month with a very special solar eclipse, a rare planetary alignment, and a discrete but interesting one: meteor shower in the southern hemisphere. As always, whether you have a camera or not, the important thing is to look up at the sky and enjoy it. See you in the next Astro Academy video.